Hi, welcome to the second class in the first week of the Watcher course. Let's get busy. We're going to talk about how young children engage with screens, their developmental stages, and their interaction styles. What's in the agenda? First, we're going to describe the developmental stages. Then we're going to understand how children interact with technology in each stage and what's recommended for each stage. So, understanding developmental stages from 0 to 5 years old. There are three major stages during this period. Okay? And as you can see from the image, brain development is almost 80% complete by the time we reach 3 years old. So, the first stage is infant, from 0 to 1.5 years old. The second stage is from 1.5 to 2 years old. And the third stage is from 2 to 5 years old. By the time we reach 5, 90% of brain development is complete. What changes during these stages is the difference in attention span, the difference in comprehension, and the difference in the ability to interact. So, as we evolve in these early years, our different abilities demand different needs. And of course, different abilities imply different tools to interact with screens. So, for infants, very early, 0 to 1.5 years old, okay? They have very limited understanding about screens. What draws them to the screen is the colors and the sounds, right? And during this stage, children benefit from interacting with people, not with screens. So, use of devices is not recommended during the infant months of your child. There is one exception that can be made for video chatting. So if you're going to have a conference or a meeting with family, with friends, since the child will see people on the screen, that's more familiar and that's okay. Now, for toddlers from 1.5 to 2 years old, still they benefit more from interacting with people. Little to no interaction with devices during this period is also recommended. And if it happens, only with an adult supervising it and co-viewing and seeing what the child is looking at on the screen. Because children like to mimic, copy everything that we do, right? They can mimic and respond to simple on-screen cues, but again, if you're going to understand how we evolve in the millions of years of human history, screens are completely alien to us. They make no sense at all to us when we are at a young age. We are made and meant to interact with people mostly, especially in the early stages, and with nature, secondly. Screens, way down there. So a child during the toddler year, the toddler months, can point and babble at the screen, right? But very little comprehension of what's going on. And then preschoolers from 2 to 5 years old. They can understand simple narratives on screen. They can engage with simple interactive apps. And they understand basic cause and effect on screen. The limit for screen usage during these years is 1 year max, and always supervised, always co-viewing, okay? Also, it's important for us to make a distinction between interactive screen time and passive screen time. Passive screen time is when you're just observing what's going on, right? So you're watching a cartoon, you're watching a video, you don't really participate on what's going on. Interactive screen time means that there is activity related to what's going on the screen involved. So touching shapes, dragging content across the screen, solving puzzles, right? These are all examples of interactive screen time. Games. And talking to people, to family, and people that they know over screen calls. So talking means interacting, right? Looking at the screen, seeing what the other person is doing and understanding that is more interactive than passively watching a cartoon or a video. Now, even passive screen time, when accompanied by an adult, becomes interactive, especially when the adult is telling and explaining to the child what's going on, right? And this offers far more developmental benefits than simply leaving the child there by her own to watch what's going on the screen, right? To watch a cartoon or a movie or a video of some sort. And interactive screen time, even if passive but with a co-viewer, should always be preferred in these early stages. So the importance of co-viewing, right? You're explaining to the child and connecting what's going on in screen to the real world, right? Children at an early age don't have a clear distinction between what's going on screen and what the real world is, right? So a person, an adult, explaining to them and connecting the dots is very important during these early years. Also, this creates a bonding experience, right? The child bonds with the person who is there explaining and taking care and time to make her understand what's going on and to connect the dots. Also, another advantage of this is that the co-viewer, the adult, can monitor the content that's being shown to the child in real time. This type of interaction is good to boost the child's understanding and language development, right? So even during video calls, do not leave your child unattended, right? Have an adult there participating with her and making sure that it's a positive interaction. Sensory engagement and overload. The bright colors, the sounds, the fast-paced cuts, these are all things that capture your child's attention, right? But it may generate an overstimulation. So you should always prefer content that's slower paced, has simpler visuals, right? This is more beneficial for the young brain. Another thing that's important to understand is that screens deal and manipulate our dopamine. What's our dopamine? Dopamine is an hormone, right, and a neurotransmitter, and it's associated with feeling good. And interactive content triggers dopamine release. So the more we interact, and this happens on adults as well, not only children, right? The more we interact with screens, interactive screens, the more dopamine is stimulated. And the more we do it, the higher our bodies and our brain tolerance to the dopamine stimulation increases. And this, in turn, generates a need for higher dosage of dopamine to get the same feeling of satisfaction from that stimulus. This is the addiction mechanism, okay? So what I'm telling you here is that screens have an addictive mechanism built into them. They're just like drugs. The more you use them, the more you get addicted to them. And for children, this is particularly bad, right? Because they are unequipped to deal with addiction. So, some of the consequences of overstimulation on children are difficult to focus, difficult to pay attention, reduced attention span, right? It hinders the development of language skills, it hinders the development of social skills, right? And they also begin to find the real world boring because it's not as colorful and as fast-paced as a screen is. So what we must be careful here is with balance, right? Balanced sensory input, slower paced, not so brightful, so colorful, and so loud, and so dynamic, right? Instead of constant high stimulation. So what we're getting to here is that screen time can be a tool, but should never be a replacement. Okay? So screens can be valuable for learning and connecting with family, right? For video sharing. But they should never take over. Real world play, outdoors, reading books, interacting with people, playing games, solving puzzles, these are all vital for the development of children at the early ages. Screen time should never replace these activities. It can be a small part of the child's day, but it should be fit around the other more important activities. So let's sum up this lesson, okay? 3 main developmental stages from 0 to 5. When they get to 5, 90% of their brain is developed. Different stages, different levels of interactions with screens. And digital should be a very small part of their lives during these years. That was it for this lesson. Remember, you can join our community and participate in discussions and share experiences. If you're watching this over YouTube, the link is in the description of the video. The link is in the channel description. Also, please, if you're watching this on YouTube, follow us and give us a like if you like the content. And I see you in the next class.